call this meeting back to order. We're at 7.4. We're on an Area B OCP bylaw 1890. And this is a second reading and public hearing. And we will go to Alex Mackay.
So thank you. Good afternoon. Alex Mackay, planner with the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. This is the Electoral Area B OCP update that was last presented to the board in July. And at that time, it was given first reading and sent out for referrals. As discussed prior to the lunch break, we did do a longer referrals period for this. So we did 60 days in recognition of the fact that many local governments and First Nations were not meeting in August. So I will just briefly go through the changes that were made as a result of the referrals process. I'll speak to those amendments and then what the recommendation is that's before you today. Just bear with me for 1 second here. Okay, so there's only a few minor amendments that have been made since the time of first reading. Staff are recommending that more substantive changes, such as examining the use of the term crown lands, which was raised at the previous board meeting, that those be left to the comprehensive review and update process so that we can have a broader community engagement work done at that time as we're looking at some of those broader changes. So what we have changed is overall, there were a number of images in the previous draft of the OCP that showed invasive species, as well as an image showing a historic church and cabin that were lost in the McKay Creek wildfire. So those were both flagged by Lillooet Regional Invasive Species Society, and they have been removed from the document and replaced. We've made some very minor numbering changes throughout the bylaw, things that were missed in the previous draft. And then we have made some policy changes as follows. So policy 1.3.9, which is under land use development and community, was flagged by the TNRD referral response, and we have amended it so it refers to involving both electoral area residents as well as the electoral area director in any process where a boundary expansion was being contemplated for the district of Lillooet. So just making sure that that's very clear in the policy. The second policy we changed is 2.3.1A, which is in the Pavilion Lake sub-area plan. Again, as a result of the TNRD referral response, they've asked us to amend that policy to include the TNRD explicitly as one of the organizations that referrals and information regarding that sub-area plan would be sent to. And then finally, in the Seton Portage sub-area plan, there were two policies that referred to a minimum parcel size of 0.8 hectares. In the referral response we received from Interior Health, they recommended amending that to 1 hectare. And that's just in order to allow for appropriate servicing levels. So if where they're on septic, if the first septic field was to fail, there's room to accommodate both a backup septic field as well as appropriate distances for wells for drinking water. So those are all the changes that we've made. We are now recommending that the bylaw be given second reading and that we schedule an electronic public hearing, and happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Questions? Go ahead.
Okay, I think that they're really good OCP. I love all the pictures. I think they're beautiful. I just have one question on page 233. That first, like number 2 bullet says zone 1. It says, second line, refer to BC Fire Smart, BC Landscaping Guide, and maintain a 1.5 meter non-combustible zone around your entire home and any attachments, rock or stone surface with no plants, debris, or combustible materials. Am I reading this so within the first 5 feet around any house built, there's no plants, there's no potted plants, there's no hanging baskets, there's no anything for around 5 feet? Is that correct?
So thank you through the chair. The standards that are being incorporated into the Area B OCP are the same ones that have been incorporated into the other OCP amendments that we've done in recent years. And that is correct. In the non-combustible zone, you're quite limited in terms of what you can put there for landscaping, but that's in order to better support wildfire protection and the requirements under the development permit area.
Okay. Thanks. I don't think a hanging basket is considered landscaping, right?
Yes, I would say anything that's temporary. So this is more to do with permanent landscaping planted in the ground around your home.
Vines. Don't cover your house in vines. Anyone else with questions? What?
I'd just sort of say on that note that, and in fact, I've had a lecture from one of the Fire Smart visitors about hanging baskets where, because people leave them and then the plants dry out and then a spark can hit the plant, that there's no end to, they just like to see it paved and I'm also extremely conscious of being fire smart where I live, but I do have shrubs and planters with plants, a lot of rocks. I think we could be a little more flexible in the language there. Because I don't think we really want to set regulations that everyone is just going to disregard. And it's true, you don't want to have cedar hedges or juniper. There's, those really combustible. So it's talking about fire resistant landscaping, but I'm sure that for deciduous plants, it's perfectly fine to have them within that zone. I appreciate Mayor Hoppel's attention to detail. It's OCP. I think staff should consider making that language a little less rigorous. I'm overall pretty impressed with how much improved the OCP is. The comprehensive review, but that is scheduled for 2027. But did I read that right? It's been referenced a couple of times in previous reports.
Yeah, it'll probably be 27, 28.
So thank you. I'm quite happy to move these to that.
I have another question. Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, that's why we passed a fire smart policy, which talks to all this. So how is that going to get incorporated into, let's say, area A OCP that's already done? Is that going to be done when, let's say for area B, when it gets to full blown review?
So thank you through the chair. I think I'll let Director Needham take questions about work planning for our department.
For the area A OCP? Sorry,
I think the question is, we
Yeah.
passed that the wildfire resistant landscaping bylaw. And it is currently better than some language in some of the OCPs because they haven't been reviewed recently. So at what point do we incorporate them? Is it as the next OCP review for each area comes up that those policies, that bylaw will now be incorporated, or does it overarch the OCPs
it does,
today?
yeah,
Like-
and so we can align the language as we update the bylaws. If the board wanted, we could do separate amendments to align everything, but that does take time and money and.
And they're all subject to review in their future anyway.
That's right.
So with the building bylaw, which that one is, it's in that building bylaw. For any new construction, we've got that part of it, and any existing structure, it's a recommendation. And so on and so forth. It was really explained well in one of the last newsletters that was sent out. And yeah, with the whole concept of in the OCP where we've got wildfire stuff in it and also just like we mentioned in this one here, they're gonna change it in this one just for that. That 1.5 meter area around the house. So,
Okay.
For the OCP, it somehow those two gotta come together.
Well, the bylaw exists.
It exists now.
And so we're covered from both perspectives.
Yeah.
And when the other OCPs get updated, that change will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions. Would someone like to make the motion that we give this bylaw, the OCP Area B 1890 official community plan bylaw to be read a second time as was amended? Moved by Director Birch Jones, second by Director Mack. Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And then I'm curious to staff why it's usually this motion is written in a way that says staff to schedule and advertise a public hearing to be held electronically with the area director as the chair. And it's usually or the chair of the board as the alternate should the area director not be available. I'm curious why it's been changed. Is that new language?
Yeah, through chair, this is new language brought in because in some cases we've had public hearings where the chair and or the alternate don't arrive. And so this gives us the ability to contact another board member that might be available to assist at a public hearing.
Someone like to make that motion?
I'm happy to, thank you.
By Director Demare. Comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, since tradition, we are gonna bounce back in the agenda to 7.1. This is bringing Mr. Hodgins back to the table for permissive tax exemption bylaw number 1941 and 1942 to answer some questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll provide a bit of background here. First, we reviewed the Local Government Act, and there's no limit to how long we can provide a permissive tax exemption for. We also reviewed the documentation and the agreements and resolutions from when this was discussed previously, and we didn't see anything specifically listed. I will note that we found some documentation that described that they had spent roughly 1.6 million in restoring these buildings, and they were looking to recoup a portion of that amount. And with the annual amounts currently only being around 4,000, there's still quite a bit of cost to recover. Another point is that I don't believe the BC assessments assessment value has caught up to where this property currently is. It's still very low. So I would expect to see the annual exemption amount increase in the short term. And then I would, I think it's up to the board to determine how long they want to provide this for, kind of based on how much we're offering on a yearly basis.
And just to follow up, can I clarify that this is indeed protected heritage property?
We do have a heritage revitalization agreement with this landowner, if that's your question. Which is required to provide a permissive tax exemption. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Director Birch Jones had another question
No.
on this or on the other?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and go ahead.
With the changes now that there's some business in there operating, correct? Does it still meet the requirements
As a
of the
heritage.
Local Government Act for exemptions?
Our requirement in the LGA is to have that heritage revitalization agreement, which is what we have with them currently. So that grants us the eligibility to grant the permissive tax exemption.
So given the information you've just shared with us, would anyone like to make the motion that we give a longer exemption to allow?
We
No,
can,
you
we can
can't do
only
that?
grant 1 year. If we want to grant a longer, it has to go through different approval process. So at the
Oh.
table today, it can only be 1 year
Okay.
and it has to be on an annual basis.
Perfect. I was confused by what you said. Okay, thank you. So are there any other questions for clarity from anyone before we do this? Would someone like to make the motion that we give this we'll go in order.
Sorry, Director Herford has a
Oh.
question.
Go ahead, Director Herford.
Thank you for the assist there, Director Stoner. Just on the multi-year and needing a different process, I think I can see a rationale for supporting now, but for this time, but given that there'll be a different group, I just wonder how we flag that perhaps entering into a longer process might be something worth considering for a future board. Just to ensure that if there is if that is an opportunity, we don't duplicate efforts by starting this process for a one-off every time if there's a desire to go further. So that's like for a future decision. I just don't know how we communicate that for continuity between this board and whatever the next board looks like.
Okay, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I'll clarify. We can't approve it via bylaw, but I guess if the board wanted to pass a resolution that was a recommendation of X amount of years is what they're looking to provide this for, they could do that and they could still approve the bylaw each year going forward, but at least it would provide a reference of what the board is feeling right now, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Makes
no,
sense.
sorry if I can follow up on that. If that's the process, then I think we're doing the best we can with it, and I'm not interested in influencing a future board with whatever it is they want to do. That's the right thing to do at the time.
Can you explain it a different way?
Sure, so the LGA only allows the board to approve a permissive tax exemption at this table for 1 year. We would need like elector, or I can't remember the exact terminology, but a different process to have a bylaw that provides it for a longer term. But if the board was thinking they want to provide it for 10, 15, 20 years, like that could be in a separate resolution that isn't tied to this bylaw, just that it's written down somewhere in a resolution that
Okay.
you were thinking about.
So we're
10
working
years.
within the confines of the current bylaw.
But you would still have to approve the tax exemption bylaw every single year. And then decide at that X year that was when you want to stop it, so
Okay.
it's a little confusing, I hope.
I'll move on.
Did you say it's a little confusing? I hope.
Sorry.
We would like to move first, second, and third reading of 1941-2025, and this is regarding the Pemberton Wildlife Association tax exemption, moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Rich Jones. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And that the same bylaw 1941-2021 be given adoption, moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Rich Jones. Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And now that bylaw 1942-2025 be given first, second, and third reading, moved by Director Stoner, seconded by Director Mack. Comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I just want to thank staff for the extra information. I do think it's important to be very clear what section of the act that we are providing the permissive tax exemption under. And so knowing that there's a heritage revitalization agreement under section 610 to me is important to be able to support the tax exemption, and happy to do so for the year ahead.
Great. Other comments? Okay, follow question, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And would someone move that bylaw 1942-2025 be adopted? Moved by Director Mack, second by Director Stoner. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are excused.
That's confused.
Okay. Where are we? What did we miss? 8.1. We're good?
Yeah.
Hold on.
8.1.
We're at 8.1 CAO verbal update.
Hi, everyone. Other calls, CAO, SLRD. Couple of things to update the board with today. One of them is Place Glacier Outburst Flood Hazard Town Hall, which is taking place on November 5th. And the people that will be in attendance there will be the SLRD, Lillooet Nation, the Quaqua Nation, Stantec, the contractors who are meant to do mitigation. And it's a public open house to discuss the mitigation works that are happening up on Place Glacier. As you remember, we were in a conversation with the province about mandating every year if we're doing long-term mitigation long-term mitigation is what they've done, and we want to be open to the public. Director Mac and Sheriff Ford will be in attendance, and that, of course, the input will be in your calendars, or should be in your calendars already. I don't think it's that. If you want to attend, it's a virtual meeting, and just a safe, public safety and update to a group of people that experienced AOC operations during heavy rains in the last 18 months.
Questions?
And the next item is about impacts on our business when it comes to the BCGEU strike impacts and other things. Canada Post impact, there's a slowdown in payments, and it also pressures us to invest in our software to allow for electronic funds payments, which you'll probably see in the budgeting process. We mail everything out, so that is all being slowed down. Other strike impacts include trail approvals going to MOTT, the Marmot sewer, the main replacement permit is slowing down with that. The Ministry of Forestry bridge installation over at Cataline Creek is delayed because of that. Lillooet landfill monitoring applications is also delayed. Permanent fire rescue contribution service conversion and establishment bylaw, so that's an approval of that bylaw is also delayed. These are all things that are going to the province that are delayed, and then payments of grants are delayed, which might potentially impact the project. We are looking at risk versus. It's not like they're going to be on strike for a long time, and we never get the money, so we can move forward with the project. And when it comes to District of Squamish strike, there might be some interruptions with Squamish curbside collection around some of the curbside collection that happens in the communities of Furry Creek, and I believe. But right now, so far, we have not experienced that. Sorry, I can ask Director Butt to speak a little bit more towards that from my notes.
Yeah, we just put it as potential interruptions at Squamish landfill if there's any interruption with staff, and not saying there is, yeah, just potential. And then also our Parks and Trails coordinator is working on signage coordination with Squamish staff as well.
Okay, any questions? Anything else to add?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Will someone move for seat, please? Director Gershon, second by Director Newman. Comments? In favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 8.2, we have an information report for receipt, quarterly development applications report. We have staff here to answer any questions if anyone's got them. Any questions from the report? We appreciate the report. It does give us a good snapshot, and it's gives us some insight into what's happening in a very busy location. Questions? Seeing none, will someone move that we receive the report? Moved by Director Birch Jones, second by Director Mack. Comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.3, this is a request for decision regarding the policy number 2.14 local service financial plans requests requirements amendments. That is a lengthy item. We have Mr. Hodges here.
I'm back. Can't get rid of me today.
All yours.
So this RFD is just a request to update our policy around our local service contribution requests. The main change with this is upping the audit requirement. The original policy had an amount of 40,000, which is pretty low to require a full audit. Audits can be quite expensive, and we found that often if we, organizations were requesting that funding to cover an audit from us anyways, and audits can be 10 to 15, 20, $40,000. So this aligns kind of with what the board has approved in the past of requiring only the top recipients to receive an audit. Yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of it. So if anyone has questions or would like to discuss it, I'm happy to answer.
Go ahead.
So I know this has been brought up before, but say with the permanent and district the museum. So if they're required to have I guess even the search and rescue, anybody there like Brick and Fire, if they're required to have an audit and it's potentially gonna cost them $40,000 to have the audit done, their only source of money to do that is from the board. So
Yeah.
it just seems to me, now is this on a yearly basis or?
So we're increasing it from 40,000 to 400,000, and that would remove the requirement for those organizations that are under the 400,000. So the
So-
issue was that we
so
were
the-
requesting that originally,
So
and
these aren't gonna be involved, but where does the library fit in?
the library.
So remember the
Yeah.
district library, it says 431
So they-
022.
So that's their contribution amount in 2025. So they, under this new policy, if these amendments were approved, they would still have that requirement to get an audit completed. That being said, the board could waive that option. That's also in the policy. The only other two that would be required to complete an audit are the district of Squamish and the district of Lillooet, which both.
Yeah, because back to that,
Or village.
you know,
Next,
if
sorry.
they have to come up with 40,000 to pay for an audit,
Right.
then that either comes out of their budget and then that impacts that, or we have to come up with more money. It's just, there's gotta be a better solution in my mind.
So, yes, correct. We have seen that if that audit requirement is there, that they're increasing their request for funding from us, usually by the amount of the audit. And that has usually triggered the board to waive that requirement, so it would be up to the board to make sure they're waiving that requirement each year, but they would still have the option to do so if they wanted. That we felt that 400,000 was like the balance between, you know, financial controls and also not putting too much of a financial burden on.
Or they have an option, or we have an option.
They could request that the
Yeah.
board waive the audit requirement.
Okay.
And the board could grant that, or they could also reduce it to just a review engagement, which is a simpler process, but not as detailed as an audit.
Director Stoner?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I wonder if does it make any sense to do that based on the like total revenues or operating budget of the organization as opposed to how much they're asking us for? So like if they're asking like if 100% of their operations is coming from us, 100,000 is one thing. If they're if they're an organization that's operating with a $600,000 budget and we're only giving them $50,000, they still have a $600,000 budget and should probably be at an audit level.
If the board wanted that type of wording in there, it potentially could be something we would look at. It would be more work for us to follow up on,
Okay.
track that information.
Okay.
And I guess an organization that's only receiving 5,000 of funding from us, enforcing that audit requirement on them might be difficult. If we were the only organization requiring that, we would likely be seeing that request in our funding ask.
If they were receiving that kind of granting, they're likely required to fill out, to complete an audit for some other order of government or wherever they're getting the grants from. Very unlikely that they're not doing it for that size of an organization.
And then my other question was just around the $400,000 threshold. That feels high to me, so I'm just curious what the rationale was for setting it at 400,000.
It's kind of in line with what we have seen historically with these organizations and when we actually require an audit. There isn't really a mathematical formula that gives an answer for this, but when we looked at the funding amounts, we felt that probably the library and the two districts would make sense to have them in the threshold, whereas the others we've typically waived that requirement for, so.
And then remind me the wording of not the full audit, but what's the other option for like a due diligence check?
Like a review engagement.
And do we have a sense of how much that like order of magnitude cost for that sort of work?
It depends. It's not cheap to have auditors in, no matter if they're doing a review or a full audit, but it definitely is a reduced amount of work. Like they wouldn't be on site and reviewing detailed, so it would depend on the organization but it would certainly be less than a full audit.
Director Pettingill, then Director Birchjones.
Yeah, I think it's a related question. Anytime I've been part of a small board, there's always a discussion and, you know, an audit was too much. And I'm not sure if it was a review engagement, but the board for its own comfort always had an accountant look over the books or do the taxes. And it was often, you know, it's a couple $1,000s and it was just a normal board requirement. And so I'm sort of wondering if whatever that thing is called, that seems very typical just at the board level for many small organizations. So could we ask for that at least for the smaller organizations, whatever that thing is called?
You make a resolution to that.
So was that the board, like the SLRD was hiring an accountant to review
Like
the financial
when I've
statement?
been a part of the Chamber of Commerce or any of those, you know, annually you'd have an accountant do your taxes or go over the taxes. So it wasn't an audit, maybe it was a review engagement. I'm not sure if that's technically what it was called. But, you know, as a board, you would have that certainty that you had a third party giving your books a once over.
I wonder if, through the chair, if what Director Pettingill is trying to get at, of like, do we still have reassurances that there are proper financial controls in place for the organizations to which we are funding?
Sure, to kind of answer both your questions. We do require financial statements to be submitted. That is a requirement of this process. We do review the financial statements and ensure that there's, you know, they're in alignment with the requests we're receiving. In terms of having an accountant prepare the financial statements, a lot do have a CPA or a public accountant prepare the statements. And a review engagement or an audit is having a second, like a third party accountant then review those prepared statements. So it's an extra level. There is, I guess if the board wanted, you could require that a CPA prepare, an accountant prepare the statements, but certainly with the small organizations, like it can still be a large cost if you have someone in-house that can do it. It can save them a lot of funds, so. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, and so maybe it's that just preparing of the financial statement, maybe that's enough, as long as there's, I think, something. Because you know, there's lots of small organizations I've been a part of where despite best intentions, things have not gone well. And so just having some basic level of validation seems important. You know, maybe not a full audit.
Yeah, and I will say we have, like, most of these organizations have not received a full audit, even when the policy was at 40,000. That's kind of why we brought it up, is to bring it into what we've had in practice. We could, the other thing is that to waive that requirement was, as this is a board policy, it would require the board's approval to waive everything, so we didn't want to have it too low where the board was burdened with having to waive these requests every year. But if the board feels the threshold should be lower, or they want to add in a second threshold for a review engagement, like that's possible, we can make that amendment to the policy.
You had a question?
No, this also, when I read through it, it seemed perfectly reasonable to me and I understand what you're trying to do. The fact that you review the financial statements that come in, if there was something that alerted you to some impropriety, then you could ask, depending on the amount of money that the annual budget is, for more information or the audited review in the event that they were with a budget of over 400,000, right, so far. That seems fair to me. Do organizations know to ask to have the requirement waived? That was one question that came to my mind. Do we tell them that, or do we just wait for them to provide a written request?
We provided a copy of this policy when
okay.
we send out the budget request information, so
Excellent.
I know that the library requested one last year, I believe.
Okay, then I'm pretty comfortable with everything where it's sitting.
Okay. Anyone else? Does anyone want to make any amendments to the policy before we move it, or do you want to move it?
I'm happy to move it unless you wanted to make a different motion.
I guess if everyone was happy, I will leave it knowing that we are getting the financial statements. Maybe it's just one to watch. I do have a, you know, little bit of concern if there's quite enough due diligence there, maybe, but either try this, I think, if that's what the rest of the board is.
Yeah, I would say to hopefully comfort some of those concerns. Each of the area directors knows what these organizations are operating under. They know what they're asking for. They know why they're asking for it. They know they are doing that due diligence as well as staff and finance. So this is seen by many eyes before it's and I think that there's a review of some of the processes to enhance some of the report backs. So we're gonna see that as it comes. But I have confidence that the area directors are on top of it.
Yeah, thank you. And certainly, like, I try and attend every annual general meeting of every group that we provide any funding to, that kind of thing. So, yeah, thank you for saying that.
Maybe just to clarify, like this process is only for organizations where we have an established service for them. So we're not necessarily getting new requests from new organizations. Like all of these have had a service established to provide this funding. So there are those original checks and balances of when we've established a service and having them operate at the SLRD for a number of years prior. So this isn't like we're providing one-time grants to new societies. It's just our annual budgeting process with annual contribution amounts.
Thank you.
Okay, so Director Birch Jones, do you want to move it as is?
Yep, thank you.
Seconded by Director Mack. Further comment? Anyone? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And 8.4. Strategic priorities grant. Hello.
Elmer Butt, Director of Environmental Services. In July, I brought a request for decision to the SLRD board for support on submitting for some projects to the strategic priorities fund. The program so three of them have been submitted. The fourth was determined to not need additional funding at this time. The program officer contacted myself and requested specific wording in the board resolution to include willingness to provide overall grant management and support any cost overruns. I had used a previous resolution for the strategic priorities fund grant, so this is my fault for bringing another report to the board. But I need that specific wording in the resolution, so.
You just wanted to be here today.
We don't own it. We don't own it.
Are we rolling?
Go ahead. Director Stoner.
Thank you through the chair. Can I just confirm that our relevant service areas have the capacity to absorb any cost overruns should they occur?
It's a good question. There are reserves in both those cost centers. It would have to, I mean, we did also in the estimates put a significant contingency. I think we we'd have to verify that when we go through the process.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not committing to paying for cost overrun if we don't have the money in the budget.
We also have checks and balances in our project management to notice that early, often and pause and wait for if that's the case, et cetera. And plus with the contingency, there's confidence to take on that risk.
And there's, I mean, with the RFP process, we would get those estimates in and we could work through what we have to possibly have to cut things out and for like Squamish water system, I did it in phases, so there's lots of potential for making that smaller.
With this grant funding, is there very similar to the Brennan Sewer project where they went for AAP twice to as a major cost overruns? Are there opportunities to do AAP if because we want to get the work done? And Are there opportunities to go to an AAP if needed?
Depending on the staff capacity, I think that would always be a secondary option.
Okay. Thank you.
That's an expensive process and lengthy.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Seeing it.
You've seen this show before. Okay. Would anyone like to ask any other questions before I move on? Okay, would anyone like to make
I'll make
the
a
motion? Director Demare, seconded
Yeah.
by Director Birchstone. Would anyone like to make any comments? No, I will call the question. All in favor? Is anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. 8.5. Request for decision regarding the UBCM Community Resilience Initiative 26-27 Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports, and we have an updated report that was sent out yesterday. I have Mr. Phillips here to talk to us. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Mark Phillips, Director of Protective Services. We actually have Mo Lucier here, our wildfire mitigation lead, to present on this report. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you, Mark. Does the board have any questions for me? I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions?
Recommendation.
Okay. All right, this is moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director Stoner. Comments?
Important, good work.
Very, very important work. All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And that was all three. That's. If it wasn't. All right. We now have an information report regarding the Pemberton and District Recreation Service transfer update. Hi.
Hello, Gail Harris, Legislative Coordinator with the SLRD. The purpose of this report is just to provide a brief update on the status of the reorganisation of the Pemberton and District Recreation Service. The Recreation Service Agreement, Financial Contribution Agreement and the Asset Transfer Agreement were approved by the Board and the Village of Pemberton Council and have subsequently been signed by the CAOs of the SLRD and the Village of Pemberton. As these agreements are in effect from the 1st of January 2026, there will be a number of bylaws and policies that have been associated with the current recreation service that will require amending or repealing as outlined in the report. And these will be brought to a future PVIS or board meeting as appropriate. Available for any questions.
Fantastic. Questions? No? Would you like to move it?
Sure.
Would you like to second it? Great. Any comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. You? Okay, 8.7, Village of Pemberton Fire Apparatus Storage Placement at 1350 Astor Street.
So that was the one open for the 2 o'clock.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost 2 o'clock.
She's not available.
She's not available yet. We're gonna skip ahead to
9.1.
9.1. Okay. So the chair's verbal report, I have 2 items. First is, I don't want to surprise anybody, but there is a public hearing scheduled for Area D agricultural land amendments, land use amendments. In the absence of Director Rainbow, we approved as a board about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, that he would hold meetings with various residents and farmers and businesses in the Squamish Valley. In his absence, he is on a leave of absence. He has not been able to have those meetings. This is an unusual situation because they don't have an agricultural advisory committee established in Area D. They have alternate community groups that work together really well, but it doesn't follow the same process or structure that we follow in our other electoral areas. Therefore, this was an important step for our board to get that feedback. We haven't got that feedback in the same way. We have scheduled the public hearing for Monday because we were required to by resolution. I think in the event that the board supports this, I would like to ask that we, as a board, request staff to reschedule the public hearing for a future date, and we can determine that now. And go through the public meetings with this, I'm looking for a different word than stakeholder, with the different community groups and interest groups in the Squamish Valley prior to holding the public hearing. I understand and I acknowledge that we have scheduled this public hearing, which means we've advertised for it. We have paid for staff time for it. So it's not ideal that I'm asking for this now, but I think this is an extraordinary circumstance that the Area D director is not available at the moment, and we don't know when his return is. So with apologies to staff for the work that's already gone into this public hearing, I will ask that we reschedule the public hearing so that we can have that public meeting. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
So was the stake, the engagement with the groups that the area director is going to do, was that meant to be part of the public hearing presentation, or is this something we go on and find alternate ways to have that other engagement, and then when that's all done, then it comes back to the board?
That's a great question, and I think that my intention here is that the meetings were meant to be a dialogue, an informal dialogue where they could ask questions and share feedback. Once a public hearing is held on we can't receive new information. Director Rainbow can't receive new information. No one at this board can receive new information after the public hearing. So it's not that simple. And that is why we're here today. Does staff want to weigh in on what I've said?
No.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just, this is where we're at.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that what you're recommending is the right thing to do. The elected area director should definitely be involved in the process. So I think we need to just defer this whole process until he's back. And now he's thinking maybe January, February at the latest. So I think we need to do that. That's the right thing to do.
And I'm talking with him regularly, and I think there are ways that we can do this so that we can still have those meetings, not leave all the meetings to when he's back. And then I think we can do it in a way that he can be involved in his current capacity and reschedule the public hearing at a future date. Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. I was just gonna ask if there's any time sensitivity around getting this work done or over the line.
That's a good question for Ms. Needham.
Through the chair, these amendments are amendments that simply align our regulations with those of the ALC. So the sooner we have alignment, the better. But I don't think this is urgent.
Can members of the public still submit feedback as has been requested in that notice of public hearing? So would it potentially lengthen that window that they can submit formal feedback?
Where are you pointing to?
I think Director Needham could answer these questions. She wants to come up.
So the request for feedback is in relation to public hearing. And so typically for a public hearing, we allow the public to provide us with input, and they can submit written submissions, they can present at the public hearing, and they can also provide written submissions at the public hearing till the close of the hearing. So people can continue to submit provide submissions on the bylaws as they wish.
Thank you. Director Herford.
Hello, I think, actually, I think most of my questions have been answered, so maybe I'll move that we schedule this to the public hearing to a future date, if that's the motion that we need, if we're ready for that.
I'll just ask for clarity from corporate officer if you need a date for us to reschedule it to, or is the motion that we direct staff to reschedule a public hearing to a future date in accordance with getting some more feedback in advance?
Thank you. We don't have to be specific in the date
Okay.
in the motion. So what I do have is that the board directs staff to reschedule the October 27th, 2025 public hearing to a future date.
Great.
So
Okay, so that's
I'll
moved by
make that,
Director-
I'll make that motion and I'll speak to it briefly if it's seconded.
I have a seconder.
Yeah.
Director Rich Jones, go ahead, Director Herford.
Yeah, I think this is a totally reasonable course of action, and I just wanted to offer to assist in any way with with anything that advances the work of the area director, alternate director, area D folks, whatever that looks like, so that things that are important to area D can continue to advance in an appropriate way. But what that appropriate way is, I think, is for the area director and alternate to work with the chair to figure that out. But I'm here to support through that in any way that's possible. And this is making this motion is the strongest way I can figure out to do that from where I'm sitting today. So I'm happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, support this. We, for good reason, haven't been able to do the level of engagement that we feel is appropriate. So I think it's important that we pause and take the time to do that. I would say though that, we are around this table equally responsible for understanding and what's going on in the whole area. And so to the degree there's something to support our alternate or any of us to be part of these discussions, that it's not the sole responsibility of one individual to understand the needs in that area.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just along those lines, I think that as part of the work plan, can we consider having an agricultural advisory committee in Area D with Squamish? It seems to be a gap in our regional organization.
I feel like we've had this
We have?
conversation. I think it is on a future.
I don't know, I think it might have been put off and
But
I'm using memory. So I believe the Squamish can was meant to be the collaborative
yeah,
solution for that.
right.
And I don't believe we have on our work plan any motion to look into a like for like replica with the other.
Right.
Not that that can't be. I would look to Director Needham to correct me on that.
And we appointed Tony to Squamish Can not that long ago
For that reason.
for that reason. Is there any fundamental change that would be required or significant differences between the two structures that would make it easier if it wasn't an AC?
There are different bodies. I mean, the AAC is appointed by the board. The Squamish Can is a nonprofit that has preservation and protection of agricultural land as a mandate. So they're very, very different creatures from a management and oversight perspective. AACs take a lot of staff time and work, and in some cases, we've recently found volunteerism has been challenging, and we've had to cancel meetings because we haven't met quorum. So yeah, they're just more operationally challenging for the SLRD.
Okay, so I would ask that we wait until the area director is back.
I would just say generally speaking, historically, the Squamish Valley community would have a challenge having a direct voice, especially with agriculture. So it could be something that would be highly beneficial.
Yeah, I think we'll have that conversation at a future meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we spend too much time on it here. Yeah. I think we'll take that offline and come back with a better moment that we can discuss it. Okay, is that a new hand, Armand?
It is for after this vote. I just have a question, but
On this?
it'll just be a follow-up to this motion.
Okay. Okay, did I have it moved in second? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. That was on the rescheduling, directing staff to reschedule it to a future date. Follow-up motion?
Yeah, no, just a question. That conversation just triggered something for me, and if when there's an alternate and we have an absence of a director, this is a situation I haven't encountered before. Do those appointments of the board transfer to the alternate? Like, are the alternates automatically appointed to those external appointments, or what happens there? I'm just trying to understand what we need to sort of manage, or if we need to make specific take specific actions if that's what we want to have happen, so that work continues. And this is just one thing, maybe there's others, but just broadly, how does that work, or is this not the place to discuss that?
Go ahead. Based on my understanding of the legislation, an alternate would step in to take on the responsibilities associated with the area director in their absence.
All appointments.
And appointments.
But that is in my first couple of years between the hip surgery and so forth, I was trying to use my alternate, and it is friggin' complicated. There's some rules with this group and some. We appoint alternates, like Sal is my alternate on the Fraser Basin Council, right?
On board appointments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then
Your alternate doesn't.
on the health board, it was a different, and also, I mean, that's a big expectation on an alternate at an extremely low level of pay that's not really necessarily keeping up with all of these things. They can't, to just sort of drop, for me to just sort of drop the alternate into the Thompson Regional Health Board meeting, for example, was like not fair.
Yeah.
Just not very effective and not really very fair. So this deserves some more thought.
I agree, and I think that there's a bigger conversation, I mean, there's definitely a bigger conversation happening at a provincial level in regional districts. Generally,
Yes.
alternates are a challenging space where it's not well understood and it's not well utilized in kind of the way that it should be. But that's a conversation for another time.
I'd like to bring it forward. I think we could do a lot better.
So just if I can follow up, reply to that response, I think that anything we can do to help, and if there are opportunities for whether alternate to take on some of that, like we should know that they're there and totally respecting the capacity, but just so that those pieces are surfaced. So happy to I don't know what I can do to help with that, but I just want to make sure that we collectively as a group are doing what we can to support the initiatives Area D in this time.
Okay, we do have guests here for 8.7, so we're gonna go on. I'm not done with my chair's report. I'll come back to it. But we do have CAO Elizabeth Tracy and Fire Chief. I don't know your name.
Chief Adams.
Hi, thank you for being here. And do we have?
We'll need a motion for them to speak.
Okay, so could I ask that we have our two guests join us to speak to the next item on our agenda? Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Pettengill. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And I'm happy.
Okay, great. Thank you. So for the record, we're at 8.7. This is a direction request regarding the Village of Pemberton fire apparatus storage placement at this building, 1350 Astor Street. As we saw all of your trucks out this morning. This is a good example of how many plants you have. And I'll try to focus on
Hi, everyone. Not sure if that was strategic. I just, tops of the waves, there's a fire truck, doesn't fit into the fire hall, and there are options that the village of Pemberton has presented. There's a shared occupancy agreement on this property and very complex who manages what, who operates what's on the property. There's easements of consideration and an overall safety. The two options that are presented by the village of Pemberton have been discussed here in this report, and CAO Tracy and Fire Chief Cameron are here to answer any questions as well as myself.
Thank you. Go ahead. Your question.
Yeah, and Elizabeth. So I looked at this, so in my mind, and I hate to say this, so this will be on the record. I hate the thought of cutting down those cedar trees, but in my mind, that's the best place to put it. Because of, you get a call, you want to respond right out the door. In the back, you're responding through possibly traffic, pedestrians, people walking around. I think that's just an unsafe situation. So on the side of the building here, just adding another bay on, so to speak, is, in my mind, the safest and the most efficient way and the best way for you guys to be able to do your job safely.
Yeah, I agree. It's my preferred location as well.
Yeah.
I also don't like the idea of cutting down a tree, but I know that in a lot of our regulations in Squamish, we're unfortunately having to get away from people putting cedar trees right next to buildings because of the fire risk. Is that a concern here, or?
It definitely has been identified as a problematic tree if there was any sort of wildfire risk in the area. Cedar trees are known to be essentially explosive in those situations, so it is certainly a fire risk, and it is removing a fire risk if we do remove the cedar tree as well.
Are there other options? I don't like either one of these options. There's not enough parking the way it is. This is at least today as an example with the full board, and I understand we're growing and we're hiring more staff. I know you guys are growing. I appreciate what you're doing. What other options do you have for beyond these two?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. We have been looking at other areas which would remove our immediate response with the ladder truck and putting it into another location. We've looked at a small area next to the village offices,
Right.
and then another small area at the end of Astor Street and Frontier next to our water pump station or treatment station. Both those locations aren't ideal because responders would have to come to the fire hall and then prepare themselves and then move themselves to that location to respond in that apparatus.
Introducing delay.
Introducing delay.
Like contamination of vehicle, personal vehicles.
Yeah, we'd probably be using a utility truck. Currently, that's our protocol, because it is stored at the end of Airport Road on our training grounds. And our protocol right now is respond to the hall, and then 2 members would prepare themselves and respond out to the training grounds and get into the apparatus and then respond to the incident location.
Not ideal.
So, yeah, back to this spot right here. If you were to position the addition forward of the line of this, you could gain 10 feet, so to speak, moving forward, and then that doesn't push you into the back. So that coming forward, I would say you could get 10 feet forward here. Right now, what you've got parked in the front there is your community wildfire truck usually?
Yeah,
Or you rather
we've
utility vehicle?
we've recently vacated those three spots.
So-
but typically
So if you move that forward, you could definitely build that there without compromising the back part of the thing. If you put the unit in the back, that's gonna really cause problems. I think from a safety point of view, in my mind, the parking would all sort itself out. But, yeah, I think on the end of the building, you wanna have all your trucks pointed in the right direction to start the thing off. Because if you don't, that's when you start having problems. So anyways, I fully support what you wanna do right there. I think that's the way to go.
I have Mike then Armin, but Elizabeth, go ahead.
Chair Ford, I don't know if it would be worthwhile to hear the several locations that were explored alternative to this as well. One being the BC Hydro Garage as a possibility.
Yeah, so previously, before I did approach BC Hydros to use some of their land, rent some of their areas in that fenced area to locate the apparatus as well as Public Works, but their operations will it's not conducive to their operations to place it there. So those are the other two options that I did explore earlier that were just scratched off right away just to it just wasn't gonna work in those areas with the.
I'll go back to you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chief Adams has demonstrated that we've looked at whatever other options that are available. There's not other options available. The two that are brought forward were brought forward because they are the best options. Having said that, neither of them is a great option or perfect or desirable necessarily, but yeah, they are the best options available to us. I agree with Director Mack on the side of the building would be the best spot, the safest. This is about response time. This is about our ability for our fire department to do their work efficiently and safely to serve Pemberton, Area C, and the One Nation. So not ideal, but it is, in my mind, the best solution. And I also just want to throw out there the fact that it is not a permanent solution. We have a grant application in for a new fire hall. Pretty hopeful. We have we think a lot of the right markers in there, so we're pretty hopeful on that. And, you know, not even just ideally, hopefully realistically, we will be building a hall within the next year or so as well. So this isn't something we want to see in perpetuity, but it is a necessary thing right now with our new apparatus.
Thank you, Director Herford, go ahead.
Thank you, Director Richmond, for answering my question, which was I saw the short-term structure and so on. I was just curious what that longer-term plan was. So with that in mind, I'd move I believe it's option one.
We have a couple more questions before we get to.
If we're ready for that. Okay, well,
I'll get
I'm
back to you.
supportive of that general direction and thank you for the update on the longer-term plan.
Director Richmond, answer my question.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you. Do you have another question?
Yeah, no, just to further on what Mike just said, the important thing is when the guys respond to the call here, if they can just go and get in their truck and go to the call, response time is the most critical thing in firefighting. So if they have to come here, then go and find the truck, I mean, you know where it is, but you know, drive off and get in the truck, and that's a recipe for disaster. So this is by far the best option, whether it's, you know, for 1 year, 2 years, whatever it is. That's absolutely the best way to go.
I was wondering if we should sort of say for like up to 5 years, is there some kind of timeline on this? And also, how does this help with the drainage problem that exists at that end of the building? Is there an opportunity to fix this at the same time?
If I may, we actually had planned during the earthworks for that location to investigate the drainage issue with it at the same time as was in discussion with staff previously.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're ready for a motion. Director Mack, do you want to move this?
Yes, I'll move that the temporary with no time limit, because you never know, will be option number one on the edge of the building here. And hopefully the cedar tree will go to good use.
Can I add a caveat? Option number one has a couple of things in it, and I would mind baking it in, especially confirming the potential impact of nearby uses. There's an agreement. So option number one verbatim would be preferred.
Okay.
That can be done.
Yep.
Seconder? Director Demare? Comments? Go ahead.
So part of this, I didn't want to complicate it. If it needs board support, would hope to hear about opportunities for whether it's a couple picnic tables on the dike or something for staff to have a bit of a shaded area, whatever that solution might be.
Okay, anyone else? Call the question, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you both. Anyone need a break? Take
Nope.
5.
Oh, let's do that. Let's do it. We're almost there. One stretch here.
We're almost there. Okay,
See you.
so we're going back to 9.1, continuation of my. There is a challenge for municipal directors who serve as chair. Attending UBCM, which I did, and as the spokesperson for the regional district, my expenses are not easily covered by the regional district. And so I need a motion from the board to support covering 50% of my expenses, which were extremely modest, to attend UBCM.
I'll make that
UW
motion.
covers the other half, but neither will cover the full amount. And so, and I don't think I should be out of pocket for, because of
I'll
it.
make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded. Oh, everyone wants to second it. That's fantastic. Go ahead.
If I can make a note that in the remuneration process, we're looking at this not being an issue moving forward, and that it's baked in that the chair would have to present a UBCM covered.
Thank you.
Come on, RMLW.
No, actually, that's a good point, and I think it bears saying, yes, the RMOW could afford to cover my full expenses. However, it unfairly sets up a future chair from another municipality. And it unfairly sets the budget at there's an inequity there where it needs to be fairly distributed. And if the work of the chair is being covered by the regional district, that I know you know, but I wanted to say it for the record, because I am sensitive to the fact that there are communities that don't send everyone to UBCM and don't have a budget for it. And I think that is a disservice to the community. So.
Well, especially when they make it at the Empress in Victoria, for heaven's sakes.
Nothing to do with it. Okay, so thank you. We got that moved, seconded. Oh, go ahead, Director Herford.
Bring your EBC.
Oh, just briefly, I'm happy to hear that this is being looked at so that these conversations don't have to happen at the will of the board in the future. I think it makes good sense, and I know that many of us that are elected officials in our municipalities split the amount of time that we're spending on municipal issues versus regional district issues at events like this. And for the chairs especially, it makes a ton of sense to not have to have this, to support this, and to not have this conversation annually with whoever should be in that position going forward.
Thank you. I did forget, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to everyone that attended UBCM and participated in a variety of meetings. We had good representation. And I just wanted to give Director Bert Shomes an opportunity to speak to what you saw, what you liked about it, what you didn't like, what would we do differently from your perspective.
The pool was fantastic. And I was often there by myself because everyone else was at receptions and all the other things that everyone does in the evening, but I'm not sure, the cost of it seemed a little over the top, like some of the lunches and things I thought were excessive. It was productive, it certainly accomplished what it was supposed to. I had the opportunity to meet with Kelly Green and talk about sort of public education in the backcountry. Is that a fair summary? There were very good briefing notes, and you know what? It was really fantastic that Natalie provided this nice little guide. I really followed it. And the briefing notes that were provided for meetings with ministers were very good. It was pretty easy to talk to Kelly Green because she comes from Bella Coola, so she certainly understood what we were talking about in terms of education for people in the backcountry and so on. No, I have the wrong name.
Yeah, Tamara Davidson.
That was Tamara Davidson.
Yeah.
Ministry of Environment and
Yeah.
Parks.
Kelly Green.
Trying to have more education from the conservation officers and wild safe and so on, and but I really I thought staff was incredibly supportive, and that giving them a briefing notes was also really great too. I thought we did a good job with that. And then with Kelly Green, 2 meetings, because the second one I got to sit in with Fraser Basin Council, who also had a meeting. And then I tried to advocate for the wildfire roundtables that have been so effective in my area, that part. And then also, you know, our issues as we advocated from our corner. Yeah. And Premier Eby did say that the next UBCM was gonna be in Prince George, but I think.
He was joking.
Was that a joke?
So it was not funny
No.
because Prince George has asked for it many times.
Yes.
They don't have the number of hotel rooms to even consider hosting the event. They don't have the banquet space, the breakout space. And I do want to touch on something you mentioned. So the lunches, the dinners, the networking events.
Yeah.
Some people treat them as, you know, this is party time. Most people see them as an opportunity to network and talk with community members from other places that may have similar challenges and learn from each other in those, because you don't get to speak to your colleagues when you're in a learning session where there's a panelist and they're speaking to you. Your opportunity to reflect on the work that you're learning about is in those moments of having a canapé and talking to your neighbors in other communities. So I think that there's a lot of value to those lunches. Yeah, they're expensive. Yes, Victoria is expensive. Yes, Whistler is expensive and Vancouver is expensive. It's the challenge that, and as a 7-year member of the UBCM board, it's a challenge. There are no other communities that can host the event with the objective of being open and accessible to every member that wants to attend. So they could host it in Prince George, but half of the council members in the province likely wouldn't be able to attend.
Yeah.
And so it just wouldn't serve. So he was joking.
Okay.
And
I really didn't know that.
yeah.
And also, you know, access to the ministers and so forth, like, you know, to have the entire contingent move up to, for example, Prince George, it's not really practical.
No.
There were 2 highlights for me, the session that we did on mental health on the Monday morning, which Josie Osborne attended in full, but also the mayor's meeting with Josie Osborne again on the emergency room closures and the sort of stress of trying to cover rural healthcare. That was a very productive meeting too. So for, you know, just for some of those sessions, I was really glad that I went. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I did want to bring up one expense that we have traditionally as a board hosted a dinner on the Wednesday night for all of our councils so that we can all get to know one another and break bread. It is a busy week already. There are many competing events. I would like to make a motion actually that we no longer host and no longer budget for that. All council, regional district hosted, or each council alternates years. But I think we could do that differently going forward, and I would like to refer this to staff to come back with options of a different time to do that all council dinner, because there are 5 different events that we all sort of miss out on during UBCM. It's chock-a-block already, and I would just say that it's one of those expenses that it was awesome. Staff did a fantastic job, but I just feel like it was one that we could probably not schedule anymore. Go ahead.
Like you said, the hosting responsibility gets spread community to community every year. Personally, I find it's one of the better events for me of the week. I find it's more productive. Seeing some of my, I appreciate the networking that goes on at other receptions, other events during the week, and I think those are really important. That one networking event with my local colleagues, I feel has value, so I would put my support in for some sort of continuation of it, even if we change what it looks like, but.
Sure.
But yeah, for me, it's a highlight.
Okay. And I'm not tied to this. I just thought I would put it out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is, I think, one of my favorite ones. I would be open to the idea of having it at a different time of the year. For me, that could work. I just like to having some of our staff who are there as well. I find valuable, and just there is some value too in like, oh yeah, we're going to see this minister. We're both talking about this, and because and maybe that's an opportunity at the SLRD board to speak about what municipally we're bringing forward and to bring some more collaboration ahead of time as well.
Okay. Any other thoughts? So I haven't got my motions. Oh, go ahead, Armand.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's worth just a look and making sure that we're doing things intentionally. I really enjoy those opportunities for us all to get together, but I do have a hard time rationalizing when we're gone such a distance to get together with the people that you know already. And I know that different councils operate in different ways as well, whether as a unit at an event, and we've really been taking a sort of a spread out and let's make all of our networks as big as possible sort of approach from the District of Squamish perspective. So I like the idea of maybe a pre, in advance of or around UBCM, but it doesn't need to be at UBCM. But I'd hate to lose the opportunity for us all to get together and understand each other individually and our communities. I'd hate to lose that altogether, but I think it is worth a specific conversation. But I wouldn't want to lose the opportunities for us to get not just the appointees to the board, but that broader group of local elected leaders in the Sea to Sky together.
Something we used to do before COVID was we used to all get together, all of our councils and the regional district board. We did it in Whistler the last time, and it was years ago. It was before I was on the board, so it was 2017 maybe. And all the CAOs came, and we had a community to community forum where everyone was able to participate. So even members that are not appointed to the board got to come and speak to other directors, which might be something. So I guess my motion is less prescriptive. It's not to cancel this dinner, but it's to ask staff to come back with other options prior to next year. You have
Yeah, I think I'll support that review and that consideration. I think it's important to take a temperature check. I think without jumping to conclusions, that is likely far more expensive than having us already have traveled to one location and piggybacking off of that for a meal. I very much appreciate the opportunity to sit down with counselors from Lillooet and counselors from Pemberton who don't sit at this board, but especially for those of us who sit at this board, have the opportunity to hear from additional voices in the communities that we don't spend our day-to-day in. And so if we want to make that a bigger thing, I think is a different component. We've done that for I think the last time we did that was around the housing forum. So if there's specific issues, I think that's interesting. But I think while there is an expense for a meal there, we're piggybacking off of a lot of expense already and actually just maximizing the value of having everybody in one space already. So appreciate the UBCM time.
Okay, Heather and then Lori and then Phil.
I just wanna ask something, because I did ask around to other regional districts and what they do and if they do it and just want to throw something out for consideration, because I don't know if it'd be a hard no or a yes. Many of them organize it for the Thursday. There's no other networking events happening. And it's in replacement of the high ticket cost of the banquet. I feel like this group, the issue is we have very active UBCM on the board members and it would be too disruptive, but I wanted to let you know that I did ask around and that seems to be what a lot of them are doing.
I think that's.
All good points, all good points. I had a good time. I actually sat with Jack and company and had a good time, but it kind of, you kind of get to know people other than at this table, a little bit more in depth. How's your family? But you know, that kind of thing. And I like that. Well, we asked staff to throw out some other ideas. I'd like to add like at Christmas. Maybe Christmas is because we're all meeting anyways. And we're all having that expense, so why not invite the CAOs to that?
To
And
the
the rest
Christmas
of,
party.
like, and to everybody else at the Christmas party. It's just an option to consider that, it's another time, and it would be cost effective, I think.
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
so. I made a motion. Was it seconded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Further comments? All in favor of staff reviewing and coming back with options? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, everybody. And then motion to receive my verbal report, moved by Director Stoner, second by Director Mack. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. That's the longest verbal report I've ever given. Moving along to 10.1, request for support from the Bridge River Indian Band, Houston land acquisition to support habitat restoration in the lower Bridge River. This is a letter of support for. Yes.
So when they say Lower Bridge River, is that out by the Fraser? In that area?
Well, the Bridge River, you know.
I know where it goes, yeah.
Yeah.
But when they say lower, is that at that end, Fraser end, or?
It's about 15, once you go off of 99 onto Highway 40, it's about 20 kilometers along the
So
gravel.
by the Yellowcombe?
Exactly, you're almost at the Yellowcombe,
Horseshoe Bend.
Yeah, okay.
the Horseshoe Bend,
All right,
a place that's been crying out for restoration for a long time.
yeah.
And it's really exciting that they're actually doing this restoration work. And they need to legally establish their access through the private property. And CAO Paul was helpful right off the bat with this, and staff sort of responded as they could, but mostly I think it was to refer them to MOTI, right? For Houston Bridge River application. And I asked about an easement, like, is there a short-term solution as well as the longer-term solution? But essentially, we're just asking staff to be as supportive and helpful as they can on this project, which I'm sure that they will be, and except that it's really more gonna fall into MOTI's corner, and I've made some contacts there just to make sure that the contacts are there.
So I think the motion then is to receive the letter and refer it to staff, and is that fine? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it seems like a no-brainer. Is there any reason we'd have concerns, or the referral to staff would be to suss out if there's anything going to that?
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, through the chair, the property owner has not made contact with me, so I'm not sure exactly what they want to do. I understand that there's a land sale involved and perhaps a subdivision, in which case that would not be something that would go through the SLRD, that would go through the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. So the only place where we would become involved is if there were a referral to us once the subdivision application went to MOTT. I've advised that a private easement might be a possibility for them, but again, that there's no place for the SLRD in that, that's a private matter. So I think most of this is likely between the First Nation and the property owner and multi.
And the First Nation and the property owner have agreed on what they would like to see happen, so. So yes, a motion to receive the letter and ask staff to continue to support as far as they can.
Okay. Seconder, Director Richmond? Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We're now on 10.2.
Their conflict of interest. My daughter is an employee of the WCA, and my wife is a director on the board.
Okay. Excuse, Director Mayor.
Community garden malls, is when you build them a town. Actually, full transit out things going. They have done, so.
Not sure yet.
Oh, I did.
Senior and
Yes,
accessible.
you did. Just kidding. Okay.
Got me to move this?
I have questions for staff. Do you have any comments on this request? Say that. Come to the table, please. Just from the video perspective, they won't catch you on the video.
So I'm Suzanne Frost, Director of Finance. And with this project, the SLRD has been a part of it since 2017 when we originally gave the funds for the purchase of a building, with the RVCA being the owner. And over the years, there's been a lot of funding, both with small portions of the project and larger portions. And in total, it's about $175,845. And I've kind of lost track of what percentage we're paying versus other sources and what that total project looks like. So if possible, I would request asking BRVCA for just details of all the revenues and expenses that they've used so far on this project, so we can see the funding portion that we're actually assisting with. Because yeah, it is another large portion. That's my first concern, I guess, and then also they requested that they keep this funding even if the grant application isn't confirmed.
Yeah.
And potentially that they come back with another grant application when if and when this current application is not confirmed. And those are my two concerns.
Thank you. Director Richmond, go ahead.
I share the second concern. I've never seen it done like that before. If you don't get the grant, you turn the money or you don't get the money. And if you have another grant opportunity, come back to us. Unless the board has other experience with this than I do, but it seems kind of odd to me.
Yeah. I would be more comfortable if there was some kind of report back from BRVCA on how the money's been spent so far, so that we have some insight into projected future requests as well. So if we have some kind of reporting back to be appended to a future report. That work? Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. If we are going to go back to the DRVCA, also some additional clarity on the scope of the contingency. Almost 30% of the overall budget, with 10% being for support to complete underfunded grant requests for project elements, which feels very vague. And so I think that there's elements here in the project budget itself that feel like they need further detail.
So I'm reading a request to have an answer by October 27th, so would we make these asks and sort of, if we're going to approve this, make it conditional on staff being comfortable with the responses, is that?
Yeah, because it's not gonna come back to a future board, but that doesn't give you a lot of time.
It's all dependent on information I can gathered from BRC.
Okay. Director Birchstone's question?
No, I asked a question about the contingency. Contingency was built into the original project budget to account for unforeseen costs. However, we have not set aside separate contingency funds for this final phase as the project is now on the home stretch and major costs are well defined. They have engaged a construction coordinator who's obtaining current and accurate quotes to ensure cost certainty and eliminate cost overruns and so on. Should any unexpected expenses arise, the final grant payment scheduled for release can serve as a financial buffer. With strong oversight and most key expenses finalized, we're confident the project will be completed within the budget. They certainly can spend, yes, the 60,000 being the leverage for this REDIP application is essential. But certainly they could use it on some of these. This is a very big project, so it's also an amazing project in the community. We do want to support it. But I hear you're asking for what is the big picture, right? How much have we spent so far and what's the longer term plan? So do you want to request that as part of this decision?
Yeah, I think at its most basic level, the letter of support from the SLRD to accompany their submission would be the first part.
Yeah.
And then that would be conditional on a financial breakdown of how the project has been funded so far and insight into the contingency, how it's being spent, like some of the questions that have been asked. That adding a whole lot. No, easy. Enough.
Can I point out the timeline here? It is Monday where they need it submitted.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Wednesday now. I know the team, these board meetings are full schedules
Yeah.
for the team, so that leaves Friday, which many are on a flex. So I'm a little concerned about timing. That's one thing. I am concerned about the CAO and the Director of Finance making a final decision on $60,000 where there's no delegated authority for that.
Okay.
However, perhaps the letter of support can be in support of the project and that SLRD has conditionally committed $60,000. Is that
Conditional to
and conditional to
these questions being answered?
Yeah, and would we put that in a letter? Or we just say we've
No.
conditionally supported it in
Yeah.
the letter and then we'll let them know what the conditions are, but
Right.
not the grant.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that will read well because they will just assume that it's conditional upon them getting the REDIP grant. That's what the assumption will be from that other fund, but that is fine.
But is the timeline too short to make this happen?
Not for a letter of support that has that verbiage. To make a decision to commit without condition the 60,000, I think based on the questions I'm hearing, I think we come back in with that information to a future board meeting.
Yeah.
But it does take some time to hear back
Yeah.
from, so. And we can communicate the requests that the board have in order to make that decision. And overall displaying our support of the vision of this project.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, question?
Comments.
Okay. Would someone like to make the motion as has been described imperfectly? Moved by Director Mack. Seconded by Director Birch-Jones. Comment?
Yes, so just the motion as described will be that, just want to hear it from Angela.
Yeah. That a letter of support.
Be provided and that funding is conditional on the parameters provided by the board, including financial breakdown on how the project has been funded to date, further detail on the scope of their contingency.
Yeah.
And that,
Does that, oh, sorry.
no, that's okay.
Does it automatically comes back to the board then when it's a decision to make the funding? Once you're able to review that? Okay.
And that further information will be brought to
Oh, the money's not tied to Monday. It's just the letter of support that's tied to
Right.
Monday.
Yeah, and we
Got
can say, we have conditionally committed
Yeah.
60.
The $60,000, which Reddit needs to see. Okay.
Perfect. Comment, Chris?
Yeah, no, I support this approach. I was just uncomfortable with staff having to read our minds, what we'd be comfortable with and that's we go. So glad this is coming back to us.
Okay, I'm calling the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I want to bring back Sal. We have two items that were pulled from the consent agenda, 10.3 being pulled by Director Generic, so we'll leave that bar.
So I just want to clarify, we're just committing there to the letter of support indicating that we additionally approved $60,000, okay. And it's gonna be left with staff to.
Okay, we're now not having this conversation. We'll have this conversation later. Okay, thank you for coming back. We are now back at correspondence for information. Letter of support that was sent to Director Mack for the Pemberton District Search and Rescue Helicopter Class D capability application. You wanted to pull that to ask questions?
Not so much a question.
Okay.
Can I make a comment and then make a motion?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, Pemberton SARS services, you know, they've got Lillooet now as an offshoot of them. And they help them and they come up into our area. So this is important for our area also. And it's critical. There was an incident probably about a month and a half ago. I probably could have used the service. Yep. And it's a tragic one, unfortunately. So I want to make a motion that the board send a letter of support also.
Sure. Yeah. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Director Mack. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And 4.2.3, I believe it was Director Birch Jones pulled that out. This is the letter where we.
Was Director Stone.
Oh, sorry. This was the letter that we wrote to the minister asking them to include mattresses and foundations in the extended producer responsibility. And they wrote us back and said, no, thank you. And go ahead.
So I'd like to propose that we consider the following motion, that we forward this correspondence and write to UBCM and urge them to advocate on the issue of extended producer responsibility for mattresses on behalf of all local governments. If it's seconded, I'll speak to it.
Second.
Great, go ahead.
I do think that this is on the radar for UBCM, but I think that there continues to be importance for us to push on the priority here. And I don't think we're gonna be able to do this alone, given the response that we've heard from the province, but I do know that this is an issue not just for us, but across the province. So let's get UBCM to do it.
Great. Okay, any further comments on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm glad that you're here. Because I do have questions about this, and this is not an up-grabbing opportunity, but I am curious if there is some end run for us at our waste stations throughout the region. Is there a one-day drop off your mattress? I know you've looked at the costs of metal bins and all of the different things. And what are other regional districts doing in this space?
There's many regional districts that are already sending their mattresses to be recycled at a cost for residents and to be highly subsidized as well, because the cost to send those mattresses to be recycled is higher than what we can expect the residents is willing to pay. So we have that at the District of Squamish, in Worcester as well. At the Pemberton Transfer Station, we have it in a rotation. We didn't have the space to have like at all times, but we rotate. For the north, staff was really hoping to get the EPR, to have the EPR for mattresses, to be able to look at options for the north to stop sending mattresses to landfill. Staff is interested to, now that we know, to look at options and see what can be possible. There's not many facilities that can recycle mattresses. The one that is well organized is it's in Hope, so that's quite a bit of a haul. Last time I looked at the price for Lillooet, it was around $100 per mattress to be recycled, but that was in 2020. So I'm expecting that cost to at least double by now. But I didn't look much more into it. Staff was really hoping for DEPR to really help residents. There's other regional districts that are looking at having conversation around increasing the tipping fees on mattresses to show that the cost is really affecting residents no matter what. That either we pay no eco fee or we pay at transfer stations, or so there's really a lot of conversation at the table between regional districts, between member municipalities, to find different ways of highlighting the issue to the province. And if like some it's moving from 0 tipping fees to a kind of like a $15-20 tipping fees. Other are like, do we go from $20 to $50 tipping fees? And then we find those mattresses on Crown lands. What is the solution? There's no good solution, but yeah, I'm hoping to look at options for the north, because we don't have anything at the moment and they are being landfilled.
Thank you. The regional district CAOs are in conversation about this and are working together to advocate. And I would like to request, there's a little bit of a gray area whether or not the CAO can make a decision on who to copy on these letters of support. I would like to copy all the regional districts on this letter to UBCM, because it is a conversation that is front of mind for all the CAOs. They're struggling with it as well.
The letter from
The motion. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, it happened fast and I
Like
didn't.
that, yes.
We're discussing a way to kind of get how to delegate the decision of copying to the CAO, but in this moment, I just wanted to let you know. I'll copy it to the regional districts.
Okay. Great. Good. Thank you. This is not easy. Don't buy new mattresses.
I just remember doing a shoreline cleanup and we had 2 mattresses. What a friggin' nightmare that was. This is the Lillooet Natural Society and Mattress Collection Services, right? And that took the entire truck. So that was before I was with the SLRD.
All right, so now we just need a motion to receive the letter, or no, we've already done the receive this letter and refer to staff. Yeah. Okay. Okay, moving on. Any late business? We did. Any notice of motion? No? Okay. We'll recess this board meeting until tomorrow following the committee of the whole.